5 years ago, I moved away to Sedona, Arizona, and this is what happened. I hope you'll join me for my review of what it's been like living in Sedona over the last 5 years. My name is Dawn Dickinson and the channel is Living in Northern Arizona, and I do videos every single week about living in the Northern Arizona towns. I am also a realtor in Northern Arizona, so if you ever have a question about buying or selling a home in Sedona, Verde Valley, Flagstaff, or Prescott, please go to the description below and reach out to me through text, email, or phone call, and I will get back to you. Okay, the first thing I realized after moving to Sedona, or at least trying to move to Sedona, was that it's very difficult to get a rental, a long-term rental in Sedona. I looked at all of the rental sites and eventually found a nice duplex to rent at apartments.com, but it was very difficult. I had a lot of people that I had called and didn't call me back, and I realized it's hard to find a rental, and if I were doing it today, I would just go directly to one of the property management companies and get hooked up with them because that's all they do, but at the time I didn't know about that. Now, some realtors do work with rentals, but I typically don't. But again, if you were interested in finding a rental in Sedona, you could reach out to me and I would just send you a list of the property management companies and tell you which ones I recommend, and you should be able to find a rental that way. So the second thing that happened when I moved to Sedona is I started growing my real estate business. I moved here from Phoenix in January of 2019, and I had been selling some properties in Phoenix and some properties near Flagstaff, a lot of cabins near Flagstaff. And in 2018, I had decided to spend half of my time at my place at Mormon Lake, which was a vacation home, but Mormon Lake is a little suburb just outside of Flagstaff. I moved up and was trying to sell real estate from Mormon Lake in Sedona, and I had a hard time with it because I was, 45 minutes away. But once I moved to Sedona, I started selling property in Sedona, and so my business shifted and it started to grow. So while I was renting in Sedona, I started working on my business. I started thinking about, do I want to move here permanently? And I started posting some videos on YouTube. I'm going to share some of those early videos with you because when I look back at them, they're so geeky. But I didn't really officially launch my YouTube channel until 2020, but I was tinkering around in 2019 when I was living in the duplex. And while I was living in the duplex, I still kept in touch with my family who had a ranch in Chandler. And at one point, my family decided they wanted to raise some turkeys. So I went over to Prescott area and I picked up a tom turkey and a hen and I transported them back to Chandler in the back of my expedition. And take a look how that went down. It was pretty fun. All right, I'm heading home. And I picked up a couple of birds. And they don't like being down in the back of the SUV, so look at where this guy's perching. Look at the look on the dog's face. Now, at the end of 2019, I decided that I really did like living in Sedona. I was able to sell property, so I think there had been potential for the business. And I decided I would sell the house that I had in Phoenix, Arizona. And that was a really difficult thing for me because I did love the house. It was a great house, 3-bed, 2-bath house with a 2-car garage and a nice yard. I sold that house so I could buy a home in Sedona. And for the same sized home in Sedona, similar sized yard, it cost me about 35% more to buy a house. And I moved in, bought it at the end of 2019 and moved in early 2020. Now, one of the first things that happened after I moved into the house, I moved in January 2020, and by February 2020, I got sick with the COVID. Now, this is when COVID just started taking off, and I didn't really know what was going on. They really didn't have adequate testing, so I didn't even get tested right away. Well, I was sick for almost the entire month of February 2020, just moving into the new house. I had boxes stacked up all over the house, and I wasn't able to unpack them right away because I felt so sick, and I was worried at first that it was going to be a bad omen, that maybe I shouldn't have moved here, or maybe I shouldn't have bought this house. I just moved into a house. My mortgage payment was double what it was when I was living in Phoenix, maybe even more than double. And I now am not able to do much in real estate because we were on total lockdown starting in March and April, and I couldn't even go into any houses to show them. So I had a terrible real estate year in 2020, and I'm starting to freak out that maybe this was a bad idea. But in retrospect, it turned out to be a good move. The home that I purchased in Sedona has actually by now, 5 years later, increased in value by more than 50%. So it turned out to be okay. But when I first moved into the house, I was really scared because suddenly a whole bunch of things turned out that were negative, but they eventually turned themselves around, and I am glad that I made the move. So my motivation to move to Sedona, I had three things that I was thinking about doing. One is that I figured, I was 54 at the time, I was thinking in about 10 years I would want to be retired, and so I wanted to move to a place that when I was ready to retire, I was living in a place that I wanted to be. So that was my first motivation. The second motivation, as I was growing my business, I thought that Sedona would be a great place to launch a business. And the third motivation was I was thinking I would get healthy moving to Sedona because a lot of the people around here are very healthy. They do a lot of hiking. There's a lot of opportunities for exercise. I was trying to get my butt in gear again, exercising, and I was trying to get myself eating good, healthy, balanced diet and breaking my addiction to fast food and sugary foods. And that did happen, but it took a lot longer than I thought. And it took me until about 2022. So living in Sedona about 3 years before I finally feel like I got it together. I've lost 50 pounds. I feel much better, much healthier, and I think it has a very good impact on the long-term prognosis of my health. Now, as I've already mentioned, I did start my YouTube channel in 2020 living in Sedona, and then just maybe a year ago I decided to work on a second YouTube channel. So I have a second YouTube channel that's been monetized. That channel, if you're curious about finding it, just go to the YouTube search bar and type in @DawnDickinson. That's my handle, and you should be able to find my other channel. The second channel is just about helping people who are over 55 years old live their best life. So that's another thing that happened again, moving to Sedona. I've launched 2 YouTube channels and they've both been monetized. During 2021, 2022, what was happening is the demand, the market, the real estate market had taken off, and I would have a client and we would put in offer after offer and we would get rejected because there would be multiple offers and they wouldn't get it, and then they would offer at 2 or 3 or 4 houses and they would say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to give up. And so it was very difficult. It wasn't until 2022 and 2023 where my business started doing very well, and I have grown my business from when I moved here. Prior to moving here, my sales volume has gone up more than 7 times. So moving to Sedona has been very good for my business, and I'm glad I decided to open shop here in Sedona rather than staying in Phoenix or even focusing all of my attention to Flagstaff. Now, another sad thing that happened is I've had several pets pass away since I moved here. Now, it doesn't have anything to do with moving here. My sweet pug Bella passed away basking in the sunlight of the backyard one day, and she was 16, 17 years old, so it was her time, and she had a peaceful passing. I also lost the family's beautiful black Labrador retriever. One day she passed away in her sleep, and she was only 11 years old, so that was very difficult for all of the family to deal with losing, the 2 pets. And then I myself have lost a lot of birds. I did have finches and a lovebird and a small parrotlet, and all of those birds have died except for one finch. So I have determined at this point that raising finches is just too difficult because the small birds like that are kind of frail and they die easily. And so when this next finch goes, I'm not going to have birds anymore except for my white-fronted Pionus Perry. He is going to stay, and I hope he lives a long, long time because he's a great parrot. But I've gone from raising finches and small birds to no more small birds just because they're too frail and delicate, and it's too hard when I lose them. Now, one of the last things that has happened is that my daughter is graduating from the University of Arizona. So she is getting a degree in neurology. I'm very proud of her. By the time this video is posted, the graduation ceremony will have been done. So I'm pretty excited that my kids are making a positive transformation. Makes me very happy. So that's it. That is my 5-year review of what it's like living in Sedona, Arizona. I hope you enjoyed my story. If you do, please do me a favor and hit the like button. Consider hitting the subscribe button. I post videos every single week about living in northern Arizona. My name is Dawn Dickinson, so if you ever want to buy or sell a home in Flagstaff, Sedona, Verde Valley, or Prescott, please give me a call, text, email. The contact information is always in the description below, and I will certainly get back to you. I hope you have a great week, and I hope to see you back here again soon.